Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we dig into some really interesting source material and we'll try to pull out the key insights for you.
Yeah. And today we've got two pretty powerful texts from the world of Western mysticism. We're looking at Thunder Perfect Mind and the Cloud of Unknowing.
hmm We've got some excerpts from both and also this analysis piece called The Mystical Veil, Divine Feminine Consciousness in the Cloud of Unknowing, and Thunder Perfect Mind.
Right. And what jumps out immediately is just how different they seem. You've got the Cloud, which is this anonymous Christian text from, 14th century England.
Yeah,
And then Thunder Perfect Mind, which is this Gnostic hymn found way back with the Nag Hammadi scriptures.
it's quite the pairing.
Yeah.
A medieval guide on contemplation next to an ancient sort of mystical poem.
Yeah. So the goal for this deep dive is what can these texts tell us about, earlier spiritual ideas, especially in Christianity?
And importantly, what wisdom might they hold for us now, for living a deeper, more connected life today? That's what we're trying to unpack. Exactly. And we'll definitely be touching on how they engaged with this idea of the divine feminine. Okay, so let's maybe start with the cloud of unknowing. Get a feel for that first.
Sounds good. So the Cloud of Unknowing, 14th century England, anonymous author, probably contemplative, someone dedicated to that inner life. The really core idea, the kind of radical bit, is that our intellect, our thinking mind, it actually gets in the way of truly connecting with God.
Gets in the way. So trying to figure God out logically is basically pointless.
Pretty much, yeah. That's the argument. God, in its true essence, is just beyond what our reason can grasp. The text uses this amazing metaphor, the cloud of unknowing.
Right.
This cloud sits between us and God, symbolizing God's vast, ineffable nature. It's everything we can't conceptualize. And the author says, you need to pierce this cloud.
Okay, but how? If not with the intellect?
Not with thinking, no, but with love, a sharp dart of longing love, as the text puts it. It requires a surrender of that rational thought process, focusing instead on just a pure intention, a desire for God.
So it's shifting from knowing about God to knowing God directly through love, a different faculty almost.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a different kind of awareness. The practice it suggests involves letting go of all the busy thoughts, the mental chatter. It even suggests picking a single, simple word like God or love and just holding that gently in your mind, pushing away other thoughts, not forcefully, but just letting them drift by. It's about nurturing this pure, simple desire for connection.
It does sound a bit like mindfulness, that idea of letting thoughts go without engaging.
There are definitely parallels. And this whole approach, focusing on what God isn't because God is beyond our concepts, that's a classic example of apophatic theology, negative theology.
Right, defining by negation. God isn't this, isn't that. Because any positive description would be limiting.
Precisely. It emphasizes the ultimate mystery. It's a theology rooted in silence and humility before the incomprehensible. And if intellect can't reach it, then love becomes the bridge.
Love is the active force that reaches into the cloud.
Yeah. The text is really clear that this encounter isn't about intellectual achievement or theological arguments. It's about this deep, contemplative, love-seeking union beyond reason. It's interesting, too, how this kind of anticipates some modern psychological ideas,
How so?
Well, this idea of accessing layers of consciousness beyond the everyday rational mind, it resonates a bit with Jungian concepts of the unconscious, maybe, and the potential for these profound mystical experiences that sort of bypass our normal way of processing things.
That's fascinating. An old text echoing modern depth psychology.
Yeah.
And you can really see the relevance today, can't you? With this just constant information, constant noise.
Absolutely. The invitation to find stillness, to surrender that relentless need to know and control everything, it feels almost like an antidote to modern life.
It really does. Now, what about the divine feminine aspect in the cloud?
Yeah.
The analysis mentioned it's more of an epistemological stance. What does that mean exactly?
Okay, yeah. So it's not saying God is female, literally. It's suggesting the way you approach God, the posture you adopt, has feminine qualities. Think receptivity, surrender, creating this inner space.
Ah, okay. So the act of unknowing, of letting go of intellectual control, is itself a receptive, maybe feminine mode of being.
Exactly. You're opening yourself to something rather than trying to grasp at something. And the analysis connects the cloud metaphor itself to this idea of a womb-like darkness.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like a fertile darkness from which divine wisdom, maybe Sophia, can emerge. It's subtle, not explicit, but it links that unknowing to a kind of creative potential often associated with the feminine principle.
A fertile void.
Yeah.
Adds a whole other dimension.
Right.
Okay, so that's the subtle, receptive feminine in the cloud. Now let's pivot to thunder perfect mind. This sounds like a totally different beast.
Oh, completely. Yeah. Thunder, perfect mind, found with the Nag Hammadi texts, giving us a window into that really diverse, sometimes labeled Gnostic, early Christian world. The first thing that hits you is the voice. It's unambiguously female, and it's making these incredibly bold, paradoxical statements.
The paradoxes are wild. I am the
Uh-huh.
first and the last. I am the honored one and the scorned one. I am the whore and the holy one. It just keeps flipping things. What's going on there?
Those paradoxes are the key, really. They embody what you might call a non-dual consciousness. It's a way of seeing reality that just smashes our usual categories, our neat little boxes of good, bad, right, wrong, this, that.
So the divine feminine voice here contains everything. It refuses to be limited by human judgment.
Exactly. It embraces the whole spectrum. The light, the dark, the sacred, the profane. It's all part of this divine reality. It's basically saying, look beyond your limited dualistic thinking and see the unity in all these apparent opposites.
And the voice itself is so powerful, assertive. It's not about silent surrender like in the cloud. It's announcing itself.
Totally. It's active, boundless. It demands you pay attention. Do not be ignorant of me anywhere or anytime, it says. It's not some distant concept. It claims to be the very fabric of reality, a very different energy from the quiet waiting of the cloud.
So in thunder, the divine feminine isn't just a receptive principle. It's the speaker, the subject, embodying this radical non-duality through paradox.
Wow.
Very different.
Very different expressions, yeah. One is a way of encountering the divine. The other is the divine speaking directly, embodying that paradox. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite the different approaches, you could argue they're both pointing towards a similar goal.
Which is?
Mystical unification, dissolving that sense of separation between the self and, well, the ultimate reality, the divine.
Okay, so the cloud gets there through unknowing, through emptying the mind. How does thunder lead to that unification?
Thunder does it by overwhelming the rational mind with paradox. By holding contradictory truths together, I am the whore and the holy one, it forces your mind to break free from its usual linear, logical patterns. It pushes you into a more expansive, intuitive space where those contradictions can coexist.
So both methods, in a way, short-circuit the ordinary intellect to allow for a different kind of knowing.
Exactly. Whether through the emptiness of the cloud or the overwhelming fullness of thunder's paradoxes, both lead beyond ordinary perception to an encounter with something that defies easy definition.
And both seem to challenge established structures, too. The cloud, questioning the intellect's dominance in faith.
And thunder just blowing up rigid moral and social categories with his embrace of opposites. They both push back against confining structures of thought and power.
So, putting them in historical context, the cloud fits neatly into that medieval epiphatic tradition, right? Following people like Pseudo-Dionysius.
Definitely. Pseudo-Dionysius was huge for that tradition, emphasizing God's otherness, God's being beyond all concepts. The cloud takes that philosophical idea and makes it really practical, a path for contemplation.
Got it. And thunder perfect mind. Where does that fit in the early Christian landscape?
Thunder gives us a taste of Gnosticism. Or, well, the diverse beliefs often grouped under that label. Gnostics often emphasized gnosis, direct personal knowledge or experience of the divine, rather than just belief or doctrine.
Okay.
And many Gnostic traditions had really interesting cosmologies, often featuring a prominent divine feminine figure like Sophia, or this powerful voice we hear in thunder. It shows a different stream of early spirituality, one that didn't become the dominant form but was clearly influential.
It really drives home that early Christianity wasn't just one thing. It was a whole spectrum of ideas. Now, the analysis mentioned Julian of Norwich and Meister Eckhart. How do they connect, even briefly?
Yeah, well, Julian of Norwich lived around the same time as the author of The Cloud. She's famous for her mystical visions, her showings, and her really warm, almost maternal language about God. That focus on God's love definitely resonates with the cloud's emphasis on love as the path.
Ah, okay. The effective path.
Right. And Meister Eckhart, a bit earlier, was another major figure in that apophatic mystical tradition. He stressed God's absolute transcendence, the God beyond God, which connects strongly to the cloud. But some of his ideas about the ultimate ground of being, the Godhead, also have this non-dual quality that echoes perhaps the paradoxical nature of the voice in Thunder Perfect Mind.
So there are these fascinating resonances across different figures and texts. It's like a web of mystical exploration. Now, what about Eastern mysticism? Any parallels we can point listeners toward?
That's a great question. While our sources are Western, you can definitely see connections. The whole idea in the cloud about the limits of the rational mind, well, that echoes strongly in traditions like Zen Buddhism with its emphasis on no mind, or Advaita Vedanta's focus on seeing beyond intellectual illusions.
Mm-hmm. Transcending the thinking mind.
Yeah, and the use of paradox in thunder. That's a common tool in Zen koans, for instance, designed to break logical thinking. And, of course, the strong divine feminine in thunder finds clear parallels in Hindu traditions with the concept of Shakti, the dynamic, creative feminine energy of the universe. So, yeah, lots of potential threads for listeners to explore there if they're interested.
Definitely food for thought. Okay, so let's bring it back home. What are the takeaways for us living now? What's the practical wisdom from the cloud?
I think for the cloud, it's the deep value of stillness, of consciously choosing not to know sometimes, to surrender that constant mental churning and need for control. In our world, finding moments of quiet, of just being with the mystery without demanding answers, that can be incredibly restorative. It opens up space for intuition, for a deeper connection.
Making space for the unknown. And from Thunder Perfect Mind, with all its paradox.
Thunder invites us to embrace complexity, to stop trying to force life into neat boxes. It challenges us to see the sacred, the profound, even in things that seem contradictory or difficult. Can we hold the tension of opposites? Can we see the whore and the holy one as part of the same whole? It pushes towards a more compassionate, less judgmental view of ourselves and the world.
So really, both are pushing us beyond just thinking about the sacred, toward actually experiencing it, engaging with it more fully.
Exactly. Whether through quiet surrender or grappling with paradox, they encourage a more embodied experiential path, moving beyond just intellectual belief systems. And that feels incredibly relevant now.
Mhm. So, wrapping up this deep dive, we explore the cloud of unknowing, with its path of surrender into mystery, and Thunder Perfect Mind, with its powerful, paradoxical, divine feminine voice. Two very different routes, both aiming beyond the limits of the intellect towards a direct encounter.
Yeah, and they're not just historical curiosities. They offer real practical wisdom for navigating our lives today, tools for cultivating a deeper inner life, for finding connection in a world that often feels fragmented.
Absolutely. So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Which path resonates more with you right now? The radical surrender of unknowing, letting go into the cloud, or the bold embrace of paradox, seeing the divine in all of life's contradictions?
It's worth pondering. How might weaving elements of these ancient mystical approaches enrich your own journey, your own search for meaning?
We really encourage you to continue your own deep dive. There's so much more to discover in these texts and in the wider world of mystical thought.